sunshine, and welcome to my Christmas special. Yay! It's Christmas and I'm really excited. This is my favorite time of year, basically because we all get to chill out and have a lovely time. So it's Christmas. It's Christmas! And I'm really excited because I love Christmas. And happy Christmas to you and yours, or happy Hanukkah, or happy Ramadan, or however you choose to celebrate the holidays. Happy that! Today, folks, we're doing my Christmas episode, and I was going to paint something for it, but I'm like, let's do something a little different. I decided it would be a really great idea to create a Christmas book. It's basically a miniature book. It's about Tripp, and it's called Tripp Saves Christmas. Now, Tripp is my dog, and I thought he was the perfect personality to do this little book. He's the perfect character, really. And so I'm just going to show you some Tripp clips because everyone wants to see Tripp clips. He's got a very cute boopable nose. He's very cheeky and sometimes a little bit naughty. But I really think his character works perfectly with the Tripp character in our book. These little books are actually going to be, instead of like Christmas cards, I'm creating these little books as gifts for some of my authors and publishers and people that have worked with me throughout the year as a little bit of a thank you. And I'm really excited for them to see them and hopefully they like them. As we go along today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the illustration process because I'm an illustrator and we're basically illustrating a kid's book and I'm doing page by page. So I'm going to talk to you about what I would normally do as an illustrator for each of those pages. It's going to be fun. Of course, though, we need to do our first step, which is writing the story. Okay, so the way that I write stories might be a little bit different to how you write stories because particularly for this one, I already had it in my brain. Like I know what the character looks like, I know what all the pages look like. As an illustrator, I write from the images, and so by the time I got to put it down on paper, I vaguely knew the outline of the story. I used a rhyme though, and rhyming books are really hard to get right. As long as you get the rhyming right, they're amazing, but if it's off by a little bit, it sucks. So I used inspiration from The Night Before Christmas with that rhyme, and I used that in my story. And once I got the rhyme and I made it funny, everything sort of fell into place. So once I had this, I thought I'd read it to Tripp and he thought it was pretty good. So we went to the next stage, which is creating a character. We've done character design a lot before, guys. We've done the Corona Club, we did New Sensei, we did Bailey's Day, all kinds of different character stuff. Basically everything I do is character related. But I find drawing Tripp really difficult. I don't know if it's because I'm so personally involved in him. I don't know. I find it really tricky. And this was no exception. So we have tried to draw Tripp quite a few times in the past with varying results. A good one, for an example, is the streaming version of Tripp. Not great. We've done a few in the Corona Club and various bits and pieces. They just haven't felt like Tripp. So the way I normally break down a character in terms of actually creating the character, what do I pick apart to put into that character? So I look at the main features of the character, which is Tripp. So we look at his nose. He's got a long-ish nose and a long nose, but then he's got a little bloop nose on the end there. So it's very boopable. So we want to make that a prominent feature. And then I've looked at his eyes, and his eyes are not ginormous. They're smaller and they're not all that pronounced, but they're very Tripp-esque. So I look at these things, I look at the color, I look at the shape, I look at the different proportions in the body of the character as well is a really important one. And Tripp's a bit of an unusually shaped poodle. So he's got quite a robust stomach and chest area. So we don't want to make him super duper skinny because that's just not who he is. So I take all these bits and pieces that I've gathered from my character and then I put them into my style. That's what I normally do. But it just hasn't felt right previously because I've tried doing that over and over again in that style to try and make it work, and it just doesn't. So what I've done with this one is I've elongated his nose slightly and I've made the focal point being his little nose here, and I've made his eyes not as big as they normally would be in my style. So I've shrunk his eyes down, and I think this makes a huge amount of difference because the eyes look so much more like his. There's so much more personality behind them. It's Tripp. We've also angled out the ears a little bit, so there's actually some movement there, whereas previously I've made the ears sort of awkwardly shaped and they don't have the same movement that a normal ear would have. Sometimes you need to scrape back everything and really look at the mechanics of how an animal moves and how that movement would work in real life. So you're evolving the character as you go along. This was no different. Like, I still tried to go through different iterations of Tripp to get to this final Tripp character. And I'm really happy with where we ended up. This feels like Tripp. It's got the cheekiness and the sassiness that I would expect from an illustration of Tripp. And me as, author and illustrator, I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, our next section is the storyboarding. So storyboarding is super useful, guys. Basically what happens is I'm setting out all of our pages as if it were in the final book. So we look at our text, we get our text, and basically I usually break it down by paragraph or by sentence, but with this one it was a little bit different. I planned for 8 pages for this book, but I ran out of time. So I quickly had to rejig my story and rejig my pages to make it fit in a tighter deadline. Yay! But we made it work. So I illustrated my storyboard from those 6 pages and made teeny tiny little illustrations of what's going on in each picture. This helps because it is so much easier to just rub out and rejig the things that you need to fix in a teeny tiny illustration rather than a ginormous one. It's just a fantastic part of the process, and once you get that right, it's just so much easier moving forward with the illustrations. So that's what we did. Okay, so our first page says a lot, and it's a very important page, but before we go too much further, let me read it to you. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care. Tripp slept beside them, guarding them there. Okay, obviously this story is very based on the night before Christmas. I wanted something that would set the scene and something that you guys would be familiar with. So as soon as I say these words, you get images in your head. This page, as I say, says a lot, and we have to encapture a lot in this one page. We have the fireplace. Now, fireplaces like this are not really a big thing in Australia, but we're using our imaginations. It doesn't have to be in Australia, our little Tripp book, so that's fine. We've obviously got our stockings hung by the chimney with care. We're telling the story in the picture. We've set the scene with the Christmas trees and the holly and the baubles that we've got in the background, and we've got a fireplace. Now, it was a very conscious decision not to put a fire in the fireplace because we're going to have something come out of that fireplace later down the track, and that would have been awkward. Obviously, we've got our main character here, Tripp, sleeping by the fireplace. Everything that the text has asked us to pop in there, we have in there. We've set the scene. This is our first look at what this land looks like, this scene of where the house is and what the dog is and who these people are, and it's a very important thing. So let's talk about the art now. First up, The perspective. I have used a front-on perspective because we can see a lot in this picture, and because we've got a limited amount of pages, we need to set up the scene as quickly as possible to know what's going on, and that is what we have done. I've also used watercolor, obviously, because you guys know how much I love my watercolor. I've used a vignette around the edge of it to make it seem like it is dark outside, but I didn't want to make the whole entire thing dark because I wanted to be able to see what's going on in our picture. I just wanted it to feel a little bit like it's nighttime. Obviously, with all of our colors, I've made them nice and bright, but I have tried to push away our background a little bit and made Tripp and our presence in the corner here our main focus. So we've got a good point of focus in our midground here, whereas the background's a bit fuzzier. Page 2, let's start with the verse. A bonk from the chimney gave him a start. He saw a big red bottom was sticking right out. So this page here is actually very interesting and really exciting because we've come into a page which is specifically looking at Tripp here. So we're establishing more of our character and have made the perspective exactly like that. So we are looking directly at Tripp, and it's a really good opportunity here to come in on a close-up like we have. Also, his bottom is a very conscious choice. So in comedic illustrations, when you accentuate and exaggerate something, it makes it funny. So I have tried to exaggerate Santa's big red bottom coming out of the chimney as if he's come out one butt cheek at a time, you know, he's really bulbous and ginormous, and you know straight away that that is a big red bottom, and hopefully it's funny. I've used watercolor again here, guys, which I think was a really good choice with this color red that's on Santa's bottom. It looks like two hams in a sack, basically, but it's this such a bright Santa red that I think it works really, really well. And we know that that's a Santa butt sticking out of the chimney. Okay, we're going into page 3 and 4 now. 3 and 4 are very interesting. What we have done with the text is it's an action text, so it's spread across 2 pages. And the text is this: with a growl and a leap he bit that terrible foe, and with a fart like a trumpet did Santa yell, "Oh!" So what I've done is I've separated the 2 images. We have with a growl and a leap, which is the build up, you know, we're getting the audience excited for what's going to happen on the next page. So what we've got here is we've got Tripp and Santa. Tripp's looking very kind of menacing and Santa's looking slightly terrified, as if Tripp is about to leap onto Santa. So that is page 3 with a growl and a leap, and then the next page is he bit that terrible foe. And so we've got a big picture of Tripp biting Santa's bottom, and then on the next we've split the page here. We've done a split page where Santa's bottom is getting bitten by Tripp, and then on the split page we've got Santa's reaction to being bit on the bottom, and he's not terribly happy about it in any way, shape or form, which is fair enough, really. I think these 2 pages work really well together. While they're not a double page spread, which means the illustration is the same kind of illustration that continues on across 2 pages, this is more of kind of an action comic style build up to anticipation, to the apex of the story, if you will, because this is the big culmination of what happens in this story, is Santa gets bitten on the bottom and lets out a fart like a trumpet. I didn't actually include the fart like a trumpet in this part because I think saying it is more than enough, and we've got Santa going, "Oh!" So it's a good imagination thing, because I think if I'd added the fart it would have been too much. So this is the last little bit of verse that we have. Let me read it out to you. Proudly he thought about what a good boy he'd been, saving his house from the red-bottomed fiend. What I wanted out of this page here is I was imagining Tripp being all proud and happy that he'd chased away the terrible red-bottomed fiend, he'd saved his house. He's feeling very chest pumpy, like, you know, he's feeling really good about himself. Now, I was quite time pressed for this whole entire book. So for this page, what I actually did was I took the character illustration that we did earlier and used it for this page because it works perfectly. It's got that little bit of Santa's suit in his mouth, and just the expression on his face works really well for this page. I really like it. He looks proud and excited that he saved his house. Let's go into the final page now. This final page has Tripp down the bottom here, looking very pleased with himself, and then we've got a Santa on his sleigh running away as fast as possible with a very sore bottom. This page is actually where I'm going to put my season's greetings for all of my authors and publishers, and be able to write stuff for Christmas, you know? And that is our book. Oh! I think it turned out great. Unfortunately, I don't have a physical copy here that I can show you because everything's running a little bit behind this year and it's not been finished printing yet. So today's Sunday and it's due to be printed tomorrow. Hooray! So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to film a little bit of looking at the book in the future so I can show you guys what it's like, and I'm going to put it here. So isn't this book beautiful, everyone? I really love how the pages are turning. I love what Tripp looks like. I just think it's turned out beautiful. The colors are so bright and I'm just really happy with it. I'm so glad you like it because I love it too. So that is it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you for joining me for the whole of 2021. I would not be able to do what I do without you, and I really love you guys for that. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a happy and safe New Year. As always, if you get stuck over the Christmas period, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and I am going to be twitching. I'm not exactly sure as to my schedule because I will be traveling in January. Hopefully we can do a Wednesday and a Friday, and that will be my set times for while I'm traveling. We're just gonna have to see what happens. If you are not following me yet, why not? Follow and subscribe, tick that bell, guys, because this is the only way that I know whether you guys are enjoying my content, and I really appreciate knowing. I like to know stuff. Anyway, guys, that is it. Have a very Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year. Bye!